Jerry, thank you so much for being on Drinking with Jen. I'm so delighted to have you here with us today.
I so appreciate getting invited and getting to join you today. And I'll say hi to all your listeners and watchers and viewers.
Oh, that's
It's
so
nice,
kind.
nice, nice of them to be following you, and I hope that group will continue to grow.
So do I. And I love bringing on experts like you that have so much experience and such a wealth of knowledge and expertise in this area of dysfunctional families, narcissistic households. But before we get into the good stuff, this is Drinking with Gin. So we started every episode with what are you drinking? I'm having water. What are you drinking, Jerry?
I'm drinking decaf coffee
Mm.
and a protein drink
Ooh, I love it. Nurturing with a little healthy and a little warm. It's
and a
cold
little warmth.
here.
Right,
Yeah.
it's cold here too.
So keeping us warm. We're gonna keep people warm with some really heartwarming information here today to empower them, help them live their best lives by providing them with knowledge, useful tips, helpful information around narcissism, narcissistic households. And when I originally reached out to you, you so kindly reminded me because I was going on off on all these other tangents. I was like so excited to have you and all of your insight that I was like, oh, I want to talk about all these things. But we are going to focus today on the concept of scapegoating or a scapegoat. What that
Maybe
means.
another program we can do your other topic because that's an excellent one too. So,
Yes, that would be wonderful. And I recently did a quick YouTube shorts on Golden Child, and these are very tightly linked. And so, could
yes.
you maybe, unless there's a different place that you want to start, could you share how there are different roles within dysfunctional households, narcissistic households of these family members and what those roles play, and then we can dig a little bit more into the scapegoat aspect itself.
Maybe giving a little history about family roles. How did we come up with family roles? Well, I'm sure Shakespeare even talked about some of these types of things in their own language back in those days. But more modern understanding, of why do we have roles such as the golden child, the scapegoat, the lost child, the hero, the the mascot. There are a number of roles that we use in describing, excuse me, in helping people who have grown up in dysfunctional families understand themselves. That's it's not I don't want you to stay a scapegoat. I want you to get scapegoat out of you. If somebody wants to think you're a scapegoat or treat you like a scapegoat, that's up to them. Now, you can do your own life, and you may not want to be around that person if they're going to treat you like a scapegoat, which is your adult privilege and right to do. Again, I tell my clients and all the people I work with, stop trying to change other people. It usually doesn't work, and it wastes time and avoids the time you need or distracts you from the time you need to work on you. In other words, my problem is not that my brother treats me like a scapegoat. My problem is I still live in that role. And then it hurts me. I think that way. I feel that way. And that's not my brother doing it. Does that make sense? It's me continuing on the role from childhood.
Jerry, I talk about this all of the time, and sometimes people think they're like, whoa, like that's such a harsh truth and such a harsh reality. But I grew up in a narcissistic household. I was the scapegoat. That's why this topic is so near and dear to my heart. But until you start to realize you're the common denominator, I was picking narcissists and toxic people as the closest people in my life, my best
Absolutely.
friend, because it was familiar to me. But until I, yes, of course, started to notice the behaviors and something was not right with all of these behaviors of the people that were closest to me, but I was allowing it. And so I had to do that hard step and turn that lens inward and go, okay, I'm picking these people. This is my life. I'm the only one that has control over it, the only one that has control over who's in it and how I choose to participate in my own life. And I made some really big, drastic changes. And you get to live your life. Once you understand this and you do the work, you get to live your life authentically as you for the first time. And for me, that was like almost at
Huge.
40 years old.
Uh, and that's huge to have that understanding. And that's why I like to help people set themselves free. Some people will complain and say, but if you don't blame the family and if you don't blame the people who are scapegoating you, then you're ending up blaming and make responsible the victim. No, I'm not making the victim responsible for being scapegoated. They were. That's terrible. I'm not for that at all. But once we become adult, the scapegoaters no longer have to have power over me or direct my inner emotional and mental life. I'm an adult. I don't have to, I'm not under them as a child and parent, or we don't have that anymore. Legally, I don't have to listen to anything my parents say. Once I hit 18, I guess, I don't have to do anything they say. Now, that doesn't mean I'm not still a victim of the past and a survivor. But then I want to talk about the thriving and surviving. How do we do that? And I want to get back to the way it was supposed to have happened if it would have happened my life in a healthy way. And that's what I believe is getting the scapegoat out of me. See, you weren't a scapegoat necessarily when you were an infant. You know, if you're a newborn baby, I don't know, maybe you could be a scapegoat in some way, I suppose. Anything's possible. Lots of things are possible. But we develop into becoming the scapegoat. Sometimes it even comes a little later than early childhood. And so when we are knighted with the sword of you are now the scapegoat, and we are bequeathed our scapegoatness from the family, and there are reasons why the family needs to scapegoat you. That we become a scapegoat, and I understand you're not under a full adult reasoning, thinking, power, freedom to just reject all that and just live a healthy life. A 12-year-old child can't go, boy, I don't like the way my parents are treating me. I'm going to go see a therapist. All the parents need to do is say, no, you won't, and it's over. No therapist will see you. So we don't have the freedom to get that recovery. And it's painful, and being a scapegoat is painful. I mean, I never minimize trauma or these roles, but I don't want to maximize them to the place where that's who you are, because that isn't who you are, and we're never to be that in a normal development. Well, how do we go back and have a normal development? Well, we now reparent ourselves, and now I'm the parent for Jerry. Now I'm not, and also how many people who have been scapegoats treat themselves as a scapegoat? If I can cut that connection, that could be huge. They don't have the self-compassion, the self-love. They don't take care of themselves. They don't think they're worthy of being taken care of, let's say. They feel they're mostly bad. They make mistakes, and everybody sees it. They feel very shame-based, all kinds of things with scapegoat. If I can change that, I can begin to get the scapegoat out of them, and then they start to be themselves as they should have been if they were in a healthy family. So we're getting that out of ourselves. That's a long, blusterous answer to.
No, it was wonderful. And I think that's the magic, right? That's where the magic happens and where you make that shift from victim to survivor and thriver. I loved that you used that language, and that was such a great
Right.
example of what that looks like. So, can we give like a 30,000 view of what's the golden child then? So, we're going to dive even more into the scapegoat, but what's the golden child and how does that dynamic relate?
Dysfunctional families are usually messed up. I don't think I have to tell too many people that they're not healthy family systems. And not everybody arrives in a family or mom and dad get together and they're healthy, self-differentiated, autonomous, mature adults. We know that, and if we've grown up in those, my parents weren't, my family wasn't. And so when we have dysfunction, when the system is dysfunctional, then it must project the needs that it has as a system. And one of the projections is to a golden child. They will, the whole family acts like a person. You, golden child, are what brings respectability and achievement and good things to the family or to us as parents that are not healthy. You bring that to the family. Scapegoat, we're angry, frustrated, resentful, have lots of issues. We don't know what to do with all that. Your role is to allow us to drain all that towards you. And then we can go through other roles. And if you notice, the family is acting like a super self, one big super self, one big person, but they have different needs, and the roles are the different needs. It's like the golden child is the heart, the scapegoat is the appendix, the lost child would be another organ. It's that kind of thing, and that's how the family functions as a system. And so that's how these roles get going because the family needs that. Where are we going to put all of our anger? What are we going to do if we don't have Ginny to be the scapegoat? We're going to be miserable. Well, and this is all unconscious. Generally, it has nothing to do with consciousness. But generally, okay, I'm going to now, I got to put this somewhere. Jenny's a good candidate. So I'll go there. And maybe she's empathetic. Maybe she's, codependent, all those kind of things. So she's an easy target for that. And if I can express my anger, frustration, or resentment about life and about all that's happened to me to you, that I'm shedding some of that discomfort and pain, and I walk away feeling better, you walk away feeling awful.
Mm. Yeah, that goes back to what you were talking about, the projection, right?
Right.
It's projecting
It's
onto.
their parts of them they haven't integrated getting out in these roles.
Mm-hmm.
And that's really, even the mascot has high anxiety and all they do are just try to be funny and reduce the anxiety or tension. And so
Yeah.
that's that person who makes the joke so that everybody in the room feels better.
Yep.
And they do that for families too.
Mm-hmm.
But again, it's the family doesn't know how to deal with anxiety. So we need an anxiety breaker. The mascot who tells a joke, who makes fun, who's silly, who's crazy, and then that takes our distraction away from the overburden of anxiety we have as a family, and there's tons of it.
Well, and then the mascot never really learns how to process emotions in a healthy way because they're constantly deflecting, right?
All the time.
Yeah.
And I was kind of mascotish. So and also I would go, why why do I need to be funny right now? Like in a supervisory group when I was studying to be a pastoral counselor or a therapist or marriage and family therapist, different supervisory groups I was in. The I would notice I want to tell a joke right now and ease the tension. Why is it my job to ease the tension? Well, and why do I need to do this? Then also my joking is a projection of my anxiety. So I need to go look at what am I feeling anxious about?
Well,
What
and that's
what am
like,
I anxious about?
that's partly the people pleasing, right? Making
Oh,
sure that
absolutely.
that there's harmony
Everybody's
and
okay.
yep, that everybody's
Everybody's
okay and there's peace.
okay.
One of the things that I noticed, because I would use humor a lot too, and I love humor. Like I
I love
still,
humor. I
I
I
love
still do.
humor. I still do. However, my humor has significantly changed since I have been on this self-discovery, self-love journey myself. And one of the things
Mhm.
that I notice is narcissists and toxic people, they don't use humor. They use sarcasm that's
Mhm.
mean. And there's a very big difference. And so they'll
Oh,
say something really
huge.
mean and then be like, oh, I was just kidding. You're being too
Ah,
sensitive.
right.
Well, if you were kidding and it was a joke, then it would have been funny and not mean. But when you're around that, it also becomes normalized. And so I think that I used to almost use that kind of humor as well in an unhealthy way. And
Oh, and
once
I
you
could too.
yeah, once you start to realize
Definitely.
it, like, and I like that you said this earlier, stop trying to change other people. You can only change yourself. You can only
Well,
change
keep
yourself.
trying, and when you give up, come see me. That's all I know how to, because I had to be done when I was done. I mean, I had to hit bottom. If I'm going to keep trying to change my family, make them love me and accept me and all that I fantasize about.
Yep. Yep. That's going back to that like people pleasing, making sure that everything is okay around you. Okay, I don't well, there we go.
If
Uh Go
I
ahead.
was going to mention something about the sarcasm,
Mm,
oh, well, you're just being sensitive. You're no, mom or dad, I'm not being sensitive. You are saying two things. With your content, it sounds like a joke. With your intent and emotional Wi Fi, it is to hurt. And
mm,
all communication has two parts: the content and the process, or the emotional content. So people go, why, that's all I said. No, that's all you said, but you're not owning the other part of that communication.
yeah.
You're not owning that. And so, that's why it hurts.
Well, and sometimes a great way to address that if someone says like a sarcastic, mean, snide comment, ask them, what did you mean
What
by that?
what
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 what was your
yeah,
intent?
what or I'm confused.
Yeah.
I'm not sure. I've even said before, I'm confused. I'm not sure which part of your communication I should take.
Mm,
Which one do you want me to take? The joke part or the cutting part?
yeah.
Which do you, because you just sent me a double message. You just sent me, and that's what sarcasm, or the joke part or the anger.
Yeah, it's
Which of
almost
those are you trying to communicate to me? Because I'll be happy if you just do one or the other. Don't do them both together.
yeah, it's almost like a mean intention delivered with a fake in a fake package, right? And I think
Absolutely.
once you start to realize that, that was really helpful. I like that you gave some different options of ways that you can address it. If you feel like someone is, making a mean spirited, sarcastic comment or joke. So,
And you could even simply say, I'm not sure I know the meaning of your message. I'm not sure I know what you're saying.
yeah,
Rather than saying, well, that hurt me. No, I'm just not sure I know what you're,
yeah.
and then go on. Or, you
Yeah.
know, and
Or
and I think about there's the envelope and then there's a letter inside of it. And they'll go, "Oh, you can't accept this letter inside this envelope?" No, no, the letter's fine. The envelope's what's not so fine.
all right, Jerry, you and I are becoming fast friends here. I love analogies. And that one, okay, so write that one down, right? Like that is such a good visual. It's the message inside the envelope, and then the envelope, which is the package it's being delivered in. And that's how you know when those two things don't align. And that's such a great
Right?
way to think about it. And it's almost like, was this message intended to hurt me? Was it intended to be an insult? Because that's the way it sounded to me.
And and I get a right. I have a right to my own reality and what I heard. Now, I don't have to say I know exactly what's going on inside of you. No, that's you. That's for you. But I can tell you the impact on me, and that doesn't feel good. So there's something not good about this communication because how come I wasn't laughing with you? I didn't feel like I should laugh along with you. It didn't feel like a joke. It felt like a cut with joking words. And
Mm-hmm.
so I don't know how to respond to that very well. Now,
Or,
do you think that kind of communication happens often? Is it dysfunctional in narcissistic families? Like every day, all the time.
yes. And sometimes it's cutting words in a sing-song
Oh,
delivery.
then you can have the flip side of that.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yes. And
Exactly.
I feel like sometimes that's the way I have heard it. I'm just thinking of one particular former friendship who would always make like mean cutting comments about other people. And I started to call her out on it. And I was like,
In a
what?
charming way.
Yeah, be like, oh, and I'm like, and they're like, I was just joking. And I'm like,
Right.
that wasn't a joke. Okay. So I think we got down that little rabbit hole, which is so easy to do because we were talking about the mascot and the making the jokes. And that kind of brought me to that whole sarcasm, bad humor, ill intended, comments using masked as a joke or sarcasm. So we talked about the mascot a little bit, the golden child. You've also mentioned the lost child. What does that look like?
The lost child to survive is given the freedom to just be invisible.
Mm.
That's your role. Stay out of the way. The family has enough it's dealing with. Don't add to it. So you be the lost child, no opinions, no making no waves, not being really good, not being really bad, just very vanilla, very to a lost child, and then that role ends up being I don't know who I am or what I'm doing, and nobody wants to hear my opinion. Nobody wants to hear me. So I'm basically voiceless. I'm invisible and voiceless. That's kind of the lost child.
Like a
Nobody
wallflower.
sees me. I'm the wallflower. No, and that's where I belong.
That's
And that
heartbreaking.
and that's how but that aids the family to keep the dysfunction operating in a manageable way for the family.
Mm, okay. All right. Are we ready to get into the scapegoat a little bit deeper?
Sure, we can jump into the scapegoat.
The scapegoat. So,
Oh yes, I just talked with two of them today.
oh, well, no, no,
Oh,
you're talking
very
to a
bad,
third.
very bad.
No,
Very
I don't
bad.
identify as that. However, I definitely see a lot of it. The way that I understood it, and this is maybe you can kind of debunk this, or maybe this is one way to look at it, and then you can add your
Sure.
own thoughts and your own knowledge, sprinkle your knowledge on us through all of your own experience and expertise. So the way that I understood it in my own family. So my dad was my guy. And I think that was part of what like saved me so much in my family system is because of my relationship with him. But my mom, I've gone no contact with her. We'll just say that. As well as my other sibling that I grew up in the household with. They were the golden child. And then I felt like I got the brunt of the abuse from both of them. And that's how I associated scapegoat. And I don't know if that's an accurate
No,
description or
I don't think
how.
that's a bad. I think that would fall within the category of scapegoat. Now, if your father, if he saw you in a favored light, then it would be that would mitigate the scapegoating a little bit.
Yes, for sure.
But here's the problem. Since mom and dad were not on the same page, you get caught in the grinder. Dad pets you, goes or has a favor,
Mm-hmm.
and as you felt some connection with him, whatever. But what does that do to mom's relationship to you?
Makes it worse.
It makes it worse.
So she would lie
Right.
and say that I did things that I didn't do to
Didn't do.
get my dad to punish me. It's so
Cheat.
twisted, Jerry.
It is very twisted. That's uh, light. Oh boy, that's right on the verge. That's on the verge of sociopathic.
Mm. You
Because
said it,
that's
not
just
me.
yeah, and I don't know any.
No, I
I'm not
know.
making a diagnosis, but the reason why I say, and I think people might understand what I'm trying to say, the sociopathic is that's just sadistic.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to lie so that you are hurt.
Yep.
Now, how healthy is that?
Well, and then to take it one step further, just this is not a therapy session for me.
Right.
However, I
No,
think it's helpful to give examples, right? I think people love examples that they can
they
relate
do.
to and then go, oh, how does this translate to my own life or my own experience? Because I think sometimes people are taught to minimize what they've been through. And I think
Oh,
it's such a problem. That's why I did my TEDx talk on it. I did my TEDx talk on minimizing and the problem with
oh,
it,
well then.
minimizing others, minimizing ourselves, and really owning our experiences for exactly as big as they are so that we can process them. And I use the analogy of kintsugi. Are you familiar with that?
Mm-hmm.
The Japanese art form. And like our breaks
Right,
are really what make us whole and, uniquely us. And if we embrace them, we can become stronger for it. And so I'm a really big
right.
proponent of that. But I did at one point, like in my early, mid to late 20s, I think, attempted, I was so
Now you
excited.
said you were 29. Is that right? Is that what you're?
A few years ago,
A
Jerry.
few years ago,
um,
where you hold up very, very well.
you're so kind. Thank you. My mom, I was so excited. My mother was willing to sit down and talk about things. And when I
Okay.
brought up some of the examples of how she would lie to get me in trouble with my dad, the reaction, you'll love this, was, you've been hanging on to that all of these years.
That's your mom's.
Yeah. And then we were done there.
How about how dismissive can that be?
Yeah. But I think that goes back to, right, the minimizing and taking accountability, which is such an important thing, when people, that's one of the key indicators, right, of narcissism is no accountability, no ownership of their actions.
No
Uh,
feeling guilt.
yeah.
No guilt. She didn't feel guilt when you were trying to. She just goes, "Oh, what a waste of worrying time." You know.
I really think, like, reflecting on it now and having done all of this work and all of the research and working with people like you and having such a better understanding. And this is why I like to do what I do, is because there's so much misinformation or lack of information out there. Gosh, when I was going through this, what happened was I ended up in a relationship with a narcissist, probably sociopath. And when that imploded, he and his two kids lived in my house. And actually, when you were talking about the mascot, one of my bonus kids popped in my mind right away. I'm like, oh, that they're always doing the mascot. They're always making the joke to lighten the mood and whatnot. So it's interesting how you see the different dynamics in different family
Right.
settings. But going through that really made me realize, I wish I had a spot to go to. Like, I wish I had Jerry Wise's YouTube channel, back as a
Mm,
resource when I was going through that, or knew. And so that's why I like to do this, to create kind of a space where people can get information about this. And just thinking about those different, family dynamics, and getting that understanding of all of these different roles so that you can make the best decisions for yourself. You can't change and go back, but you can change starting right
right.
now, today, this minute.
You can change right now. And your little child is within you.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that child hasn't gone anywhere. And so you can love that child all that she needs to be loved. That's the good news, and and that's what we need. I need Jerry to love Jerry. And I will never forget the day I decided, after pretty much hitting bottom,
Mm.
that I was going to love Jerry. You don't know how hard that was. And people go, oh, well, of course you should love yourself. Of course. No, no. When you really decide you're going to do that and feel that way about you, and love is a choice. There's a book called Love is a Choice by
Mm.
a Christian psychiatrist, I think. And love is a choice. And and that was my choice moment of going, am I going to keep disliking me? Am I going to keep doing that the rest of my life? I mean, Jerry, your life looks like you don't like you. You know, much of what's
Yeah.
going on says you don't like you. Are you going to do something different?
And if people were really being honest with themselves, I think it would be a hard truth. That's why I named my second. So my first book is called You're My Favorite. The second one is a guided journal called I'm My Favorite. And that's the shift, right?
Absolutely,
That's the
absolutely. Well,
shift,
you've got it.
is becoming your own damn favorite. And if we're really
That's
honest
right.
with ourselves, how we treat ourselves, negative self talk is such a problem. I actually do this in my keynotes where I have people think of the last, like, a lot of times people have a mean thing that they tell themselves on repeat. And so I have people kind of either close
Right.
their eyes or look down,
Right.
think of that mean thing that you tell yourself or that you used to tell yourself, and say it to yourself one time. And then I have them open their eyes, and you can feel the energy in the room just drain. Like, there is a
Absolutely.
huge downshift. And then you know what I do? Is I have them turn to the person next to them. I'm like, okay, now turn to the person next to you. And they're like, okay. I'm like, now say that thing to them. And people are like, no way, I'm not doing
Uh,
that. So if you wouldn't say that to the person sitting next to you,
right.
why do you do that to yourself? And I just think people aren't truly honest with themselves. I think there's a difference in
Sure.
saying you love yourself and acting like you love yourself and
No,
treating
no, right.
like you love yourself.
Well, and I'll go even further in terms of relationships. I- If you don't have a good relationship with you or love yourself, don't fool yourself into thinking you can love other people.
Yeah, have you heard, I
Isn't
feel
that
like,
crazy?
yes, it is. And it's so true. It's also like, if you are in this, if you are in a pattern of picking bad partners, right? That is a reflection of how much you love yourself. Who you are picking to
Oh,
have
but
in
now
your
you're
life.
blaming the victim. Now you're blaming the victim.
We have
That isn't what you said at all. And you weren't blaming but some people would be. Well, see, now you're blaming the victim for the abuse they got from their narcissistic partner. No, it's not. We're not blaming you for the partner's personality disorder or how they treated you, which was wrong, abusive. We're naming all the things it is. What we want to understand is to zoom out and see, how did we get here? Because if you're only a victim of all of life, how are you going to move anywhere differently? Now, I wouldn't tell someone who's in a marriage relationship which she's getting beaten every day and go, well, you just need to, I think your picker is just bad and you probably just need to leave him, and that you're there because of your own choices. I would never say that to them. I would never, but I hope they could get to a place where they could begin to understand their self hate and self dislike and non self compassion contributed to the narcissist being successful.
Yeah, that's a really great perspective. And thank you for saying that, because that wasn't my intention. But if
Oh,
someone is
not at
saying,
all.
I'm continuing to be unhappy in these relationships, right? If they're aware enough of that, then I think they can start to do the work to go, oh, okay, this is a pattern. And if you're
Right.
unhappy with it, then you're the only one that can break that pattern and start to make different choices.
And we cannot break the narcissist pattern.
No.
We can only break ours. And so that does take a hard look. But I never blame I don't think anything you said was blaming. I don't blame. If I say, well, what part did I play in that? That's not blame. Blaming is a very negative thing in systems thinking and in
Mm-hmm.
family systems. Blaming is a unique thing. Um, and no, I don't blame victims. I try not to blame anybody for anything. I don't even blame the narcissist. I think the narcissist is not well. The narcissist does not good things that do hurt other people. They have a hard time changing, if not impossible at times. And that's just the reality, rather than, it's not a blaming, shaming.
Yeah.
It's because then I'm not looking. Blaming is reactivity.
Mm-hmm.
Blaming is a reactive response, and people don't always. They think I'm justified in blaming because do you know what they did? And I said, I'm not discounting anything they did. I think it's horrible what they did. But your blaming is not going to get you anywhere.
Yeah.
It's going to keep you from seeing more of yourself in a healthy way.
Yeah. You don't have to blame them to move on.
You don't you don't have to blame them to move on.
And you also don't have to forgive them. You can just move on and move forward without any of that.
People get a divorce, they keep the blame going, and it just follows them the rest of their life.
Just festers.
And they pick somebody else,
Yeah.
and then they have to do the whole blaming again. Now I have 3 wives I have to blame for why the relationship didn't work. It's
Hmm.
like, what's going on here?
So, Jerry, would you say, like what I kind of described, the scapegoat, is that one of their patterns of behaviors, is picking bad romantic partners or picking romantic partners that might have some narcissistic tendencies if they grew up in a narcissistic household? Is that something that you see?
Certainly,
Okay.
because if I am stuck in a childhood role and I have not healed, recovered, resolved that, then I'm going to have to find how I can get that again. And so I will pick not so good people so that I continue to be this role that I believe somehow is me. That's all unconscious. It's not, people aren't thinking that through when they're dating Mr. Wonderful, and they're not thinking about all that. But I think there's really an element of that. Now, am I blaming them for picking this guy? No, it's not even about blaming them. It's just that your programming is in there that will tolerate this malignant normalcy. It will
Malignant normalcy. Hmm.
right. And malignant normalcy is if somebody yells at me, well, I wish they wouldn't, and I hate it, and they really shouldn't, and I feel hurt, and I'm crying, but it's still within the realm of normal. And I want to help people change their normal.
All right, so let's get to that. I have one more question before we get to like the healing to get to that.
Oh, okay.
Um, as it relates to scapegoats, and maybe this is a kind of a loaded question, but what other behaviors might people know or might people have experienced or things, what might have they experienced in childhood if they were a scapegoat? And then what do some of the coping behaviors and mechanisms look like, or how do those show up in adulthood? Kind of like we just talked about, oftentimes they might pick that continual
A
pattern of
bad
bad romantic
relationship.
partners, right? What
Right.
like what else does that look like in childhood if you're like, ooh, maybe I was a scapegoat in my family system? What does that look like? How might I know? And then how does that show up in adulthood? Like what might I what might be indicators today that I was?
Well, and I think scapegoating and the experience of being a scapegoat, it is probably not a very hidden experience. You are looked at in a negative way by some portion of your family or all of your family. You are looked at in a negative way. It's not the glass is half empty. It's the glass is half empty. The glass is not half full when it comes to you. You're half empty, and you're seen in a more negative light. And that also there will be scapegoating requires family lies, family secrets, and family triangles, emotional triangles. Mom, me, my sister. Mom, dad, me. It requires, just like in your own family you mentioned. I'm sorry to bring up your family, but you you mentioned your own family that, hey, dad was might have been a little more favor for dad, but then mom resents that. Now she's in this triangle with you, her, and dad. And so there must be triangles. And triangles can be really painful and traumatic. Someone's on the in and someone's on the out in a triangle, always.
Okay, I've never heard this explained that way, but that was always the case in my family. There was always one child that was on the
Oh,
outs, and well, and ultimately, unfortunately, now none of my mother's children speak to her. One is that unfortunately he passed away 8 years ago, but even before he passed away, he
he wasn't.
was no contact with her. So, um, I think, and I think sometimes people very much misunderstand going no contact with a parent. And I say this all the time, but I just feel like you can't reiterate this enough. And I would love to get your thoughts on this. But going no contact with a parent is not a lightly made decision. It is
Hmm.
the last resort. You have done and tried everything to have a relationship with your parent. And it is so frustrating when people are like, yeah, but that's your only parent that you're gonna have. And I'm like, I am also this only child that the parent's going to have.
Right.
And what do you
Right.
think they had to do to make it so that you have to eliminate them from your life? Like, it is not a decision taken
Right. It's
lightly.
not, I'm just having a bad day and I think I won't ever see my mom again.
No.
That's not usually how people are making that decision. Some people make the decision poorly, wrongly, because people can do all kinds of things. So I don't justify everybody's decision, and it's theirs to make. With, I think, what makes it so difficult, and why I think it's hard to. But I even think about this with divorce. Most people have they go, oh well, they just got a divorce. Divorce is not easy. I'm sorry. That no people go, oh, I think I'd love to have a divorce today. That sounds like a fun thing to do for the next 6 months. I think I'll have a great time. Let's just go the easy route, get a divorce, and be miserable no, it is a serious decision. Same way with
Mm.
going no contact, the reason why it's so difficult is because things are so severe that I need to go against biology.
Well, and I think your explanation, right? Like you've given such good analogies, the envelope and the letter and the message, right? And then the triangle. I think that pitting people against each other and that triangle just, we know the concept of triangulation, right, with
Right.
narcissism, but like that visual of a triangle and how you explain that was super helpful. So I think that's something like that's not healthy to pit your family members against one another to always create tension, drama, a
And and
fight.
and think back, if triangles and triangulations would have been eliminated from your family, what would that have been like?
Mm,
People would be communicating with people one on one and directly. There wouldn't be this jealousy. There wouldn't be this, because jealousy is a triangle that comes out of a triangle. Um, and so there's the family lies. There always must be lies when you have a scapegoat. You have to be lied about. And then there's usually some secrets that either you've exposed and now they're unhappy with you, or you'll look underneath the skirt or you're of the family or whatever analogy you want to use, you're a truth teller or whatever, and that's going to make you a scapegoat because now you're messing with our denial, and then the triangles.
is the secrets, and I don't know, like one of the things that I always um think about when I think about narcissistic families and households is how they have disagreements and how they sweep things under the
Yes.
rug and don't talk about them, pretend like they never happened. Is that a little bit like the secrets? And then instead of, like maybe you're the one
Right.
that tried to talk about things and it's like, oh, no, we don't talk about that. We sweep that under the rug. We don't address it, acknowledge it. We just move on like nothing ever happened.
Well, we could either take a narcissistic parent, or we could take, here's a more clear maybe example of an alcoholic parent who's a raging alcoholic, but we never talk about it. I don't care if he beats everybody on Friday night and then on Saturday morning he's happy, and you know, uh, we never talk about it.
Mm,
His alcoholism is never brought up. We don't even say the word alcoholic. That's a family secret, but it's a secret out in the open.
yep.
It's a out in the open secret that we cannot talk about,
Yeah, it's that
and
denial.
it's that denial. And narcissistic parents, similarly, uh, I know therapists that if you would go to them and if you sat down at the first session and said, you know, my mom was really a narcissist. Oh, are you sure? How do you know that? You're not a psychiatrist. How do and they don't even believe you because they're in denial, you know, because I don't have to question. I worked for a psychiatrist who was absolutely fabulous from and University of Chicago, excellent medical school and university, and they were very good with diagnoses, very very good. And he would talk about believe the patient.
Mm.
Yeah, but what if they don't have it right? Believe the patient. They're telling you what is true the best way they know how to do that. So if somebody comes and says their mother's a narcissist, well, I don't know. I don't have a psychological evaluation on her mother. I don't know whether but that meaning means something to them, and they haven't come up with that just for fun,
No.
or just because they're mad at their mother today. There's something I want to find out about that
No
because
one's
they're
gonna
trying to communicate. You don't know. Go ahead.
I was gonna say no one's like running around celebrating that. My mom's a narcissist. No, right? Like no one's going around
I
celebrating
was
that.
so happy that
I love, but I think it does give people some validation to go, oh my gosh, I finally put the pieces together and figured this out. And I also love the saying that being around a narcissist Or like a narcissism is the only personality disorder where everyone around them ends up in therapy except for them.
Oh,
you
absolutely.
know. So how does this show up as an adult if you are a scapegoat?
Okay. And if you're in a scapegoat, well, how often might you lie or want to lie or need to lie or feel you should lie? I'm not saying you're a chronic liar. I'm not saying we're chronic liars. I'm just saying, how comfortable are we with the truth? And will we hide that? As a codependent, I hid that all the time.
Oh, see, I was the opposite. I
You
can't
just,
lie. I
no,
can't lie.
good, 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 good. That very, very good.
I actually had
And then,
an expert on lying on, and that was really fascinating. There are instances,
oh,
right?
yeah.
Like if you invite me over for dinner, Jerry, and you cooked a really terrible meal, and you're like, "How did you like it?" I'm be like, "I'm so grateful. Thank you for
Thank you.
cooking
I'm
for me," right?
glad
But
you,
I might not be able to say, "Oh, it was delicious." So
it was really,
is
really,
that
and I may not need to say it was horrible.
lying by omission? But so that's like a
Right,
whole
right, right.
scale. Okay,
No,
so
that's good.
issues
The,
with
right. Well, and
lying.
oftentimes the scapegoat will be a truth teller.
Oh,
Um,
but I also understand like what you're saying, feeling the need to hide things.
to hide.
Yeah.
And so let's go to adult. Let's go to adult.
Yeah.
Um, and if we, I think I wrote, there's something I wrote. Oh, I know. I did write. So if we, as adults now, and we have been a scapegoat growing up, we may carry with us some scapegoat ideas about us. We're going to carry that role with us and believe it. And I like what does he say? I think I had it right here. I think I can quote it, summarize it. The adult scapegoat struggles with the way they really feel inside and the way everybody thinks they should feel about themselves. And that goes opposite. And what I mean by feel inside, I'm a good person. I try to do the right things. I try to tell the truth. I don't, there are a lot of good things, but that doesn't match all that has been told to me over the years about who I am. So I have a distorted image about who I am, and I can't fully accept that I'm a good person or a wonderful person, a lovable person, a good person, because there's this scapegoat thinking out there that I've got to struggle with. So that's another thing we might experience as adults, as being insecure and not confident about ourselves. I also think there's a very uh, let's talk about lies again. We might be too readily accepting of lies about us or tolerant of that
Hmm.
because we've been lied about for how many years. And I'm not saying you should go out with a machine gun and respond to the lies. I'm just saying that we might, that's the way it's always been. And I think there are better ways to deal with particularly lies. And I had like two clients today whose family, it, the narcissistic father has alienated the two adult children against mom because he would always point out how reactive and crazy she would get. But the kids didn't know and don't know what dad was doing as to why mom might be overreacting. And she admitted she was overreacting. She admitted, I did what he said I did. The thing is, he never told them what he was going on with him. You know, he never. So there's a lie about that, and so we have in adulthood, we have that identity crisis. When Who am I if I'm not a scapegoat? Who am I? And I always ask my scapegoats, if I waved a magic wand and you weren't a scapegoat then, you're not a scapegoat now, what would you be like and who are you? I want to know.
And that's the
And
mindset shift.
and that's the mindset shift. I want them to think outside the box because they're so used to only thinking inside the box. And I want them to think outside because you really, and in fact, the real you exists outside that box. The real you.
And people don't give themselves enough credit for what they think and what they feel. I always
They don't.
say your thoughts create your feelings shape your mood, and your mood becomes your reality. So you have to be careful what you think about yourself.
And the opposite of that is true also.
Yes.
Your feelings can create thoughts, and I call that feel think.
Mm.
And most politics is about feel think. It's not about the logic of the politics. And even religion can be feel think. It's this is the way I feel, and now I'm putting thoughts to it. Same way with even scapegoating someone. Your feelings are guiding what you're saying about the scapegoat. It's not reality that's about the scapegoat. It's not true. It's your feelings that's creating these thoughts. So, and I used to do CBT, so I understand that thoughts create your feelings, and that's absolutely true. And then in my family systems world, it can go the other way.
Yeah.
And I like having both, be able to use both directions to help someone heal and recover.
So for the healing and recovering, because that's such an important part, we can kind of wrap up with that, unless there's anything else you wanted to talk about how it shows up in adulthood. I feel like, and correct me if I'm wrong, I don't want to paraphrase what you've said or put any words
Go
in your
right
mouth.
ahead.
But a big part of the journey to healing from this is understanding it, getting to know and learn yourself, who you really are, learn to love yourself. And those things can be done by working with therapists like you. Spending time with yourself. You have to do that in order to get to learn and know yourself. Follow Jerry's YouTube channel. I'm going to put your website and your YouTube channel in the show notes. What else? What would you like to leave us with today?
Well, and I think if we're working on those things, that we realize that being a scapegoat is a pseudo self. It's not a real self. It's a role. Roles are always pseudo self. And if you say, well, I want to be the genuine me, are you willing to give up your scapegoat role? Well, that's just too hard. I grew up with that in childhood. I didn't say it was easy. I didn't say it would only happen overnight. You just go to bed, wake up, and it's all gone. I didn't say that. But you have to believe and know it's possible so that you can begin to shed the scapegoat role and disconnect from the family super self and Wi-Fi of the family programming so that you can be truly who you are. And of course, that has to do with how we interact with lies. When people go, oh, well, your mother said you did this and you're this way, and blah, blah, blah. And I just think that's awful that you treat her that way. You know what I say if I'm going to not be the scapegoat? I understand that's what you've heard from mom. And Betty, you're totally free to believe that. That's perfectly fine if you want to believe that about me. I think there's much more to the story that you don't know. And that's okay. I can't expect you to know the whole story. You're welcome to believe mom. You're her friend. Go right ahead. That's perfectly fine. But that doesn't mean what you understand and what you believe is necessarily accurate, nor a full description of me. But I'll let you have that. And also, I might want to add, do you see me that way if you hadn't gotten that information?
Mm-hmm.
Do you really see me that way? That's who I am. I remember as a pastor, I would do that. If you hadn't heard that from this parishioner who's all neurotic and upset because I'm a father figure for them and they hated their father, and now I get all the projection. Is that the way the other people coming to me and say, why are you treating them that way? First of all, do you really think I'm treating them that way? First of all, have I ever treated you that way? Do you see that as the way I treat people? You've known me for 15 years. Well, no. Then why are we having this conversation? Why are we having this conversation? You're free to believe them. I mean, I can't keep you from believing them. And out of that sense of self, I'm shedding the scapegoat role as being the one that I'm rising above it, and I'm going, hey, you're free to think of me as in a scapegoat way all you want, but scapegoats are always lied about. So
It's kind
you're
of
free
like
to
unsubscribing from that label that you've been.
unsubscribing. Ooh, I love that.
That's what the name of one of my keynotes
I
in my forthcoming book.
absolutely
Oh,
wonderful, wonderful.
that made me so excited that that was your reaction. Yeah. So it's like, I think sometimes we have to unsubscribe from that so that we can discover our
That's right.
true identity. And that you said that so beautifully.
And people would say, but if I unsubscribe from that, then I'm really not being my true self because I grew up as a scapegoat. No, no, it's just the opposite. It's only when you unsubscribe from that can you find who you are.
And you can, if you want, you can leave that with old versions of you. This is the version of you today. And
Right.
you don't have to, so you can unsubscribe from that label to be your best self right now. Yeah.
And I think also beginning to own their own sense of realness in healing and recovery, that you are real, because as a scapegoat you have been made to be unreal,
Mm.
and it's very difficult when you're being made to be unreal. No, no, this is the real me. And that's why when I talk about these parishioners, no, no, this is the real me.
Yeah.
Take it, or you can do what you want if you want to believe them, and but you have to decide. I've been living here for a while. This is the real me.
Well, and I love that you said it doesn't happen overnight. But
No,
if you want,
no,
you almost have to rewire your brain, yeah, to
it is.
to align with who you really are, to really understand and discover yourself and for who you truly are. But it's worth it. And yeah,
Oh,
it's kind of,
oh,
I always say it's like, you're not going to go to the gym one time or eat one salad and have,
and go. Oh, I'm in
yeah,
shape
yeah,
and
exactly.
everything.
It's the same thing with doing this kind of work. It takes practice, it takes working with experts like you. It takes doing the work and staying diligent with it. And it is so worth it when you get on the other side. And Jerry, I just want to thank you.
And I am working with people. I tell them change is very slow until it's very fast. And it can be one or the other almost any time, because there can be instantaneous changes. Just like when I decide, you even talked about some moments where this was a game changer.
Yep.
And I had game changing moments, or just right now. And then there are other things that come with time and progress, the change that happens. So it's not like there's never instantaneous changes. I can have new look on life in seconds if I have, and let me say, if maybe also if I have the right midwife, I can have the baby quickly, but I still can take 9 months to get to that. So,
I love that. Change is slow until it's fast. And
and it can be either.
yes, and I also love the idea that change is hard, but so is staying the same. You
Staying the
pick.
same can be harder.
Yeah, you have to pick.
And I keep telling, they go, oh, I feel fearful about doing that. And I feel, and not about what you're dealing with right now. That doesn't sound like any fun. It sounds horrible.
Yeah.
We might want to try less pain rather than more pain. But I understand fear. Hey, I've had to face my fears many, many times, and I know that's not easy. I know that, and I appreciate people. I value and I empathize with people because nothing that I teach them I haven't had to do.
And I think that's what makes you so great at what you do. You really come from a place of empathy and support. And I am so grateful that you're doing the work that you're doing and that you are willing to come and share your expertise with me and our friends here on Drinking with Jen. Jerry, thank you so much.
You're very welcome, Jenny. Thank you very much for having me today. And I hope people might take a look. I've got a free training out there that doesn't cost anything to anybody. Now I have an online program that does cost, but it's not too much. But the free training is they can sign up for that and get that at no cost to them.
Perfect. I will be sure to put that in the show notes along with your YouTube channel, your website, the free training, and then the paid as well. And is that all on your website?
All on the
Okay.
website. And
Wonderful.
and on YouTube, every one of my YouTube videos has all that information too.
Amazing.
So if they just goes to one of my videos, they can.
Go watch his
They got.
videos. They're so good.
Thank
They're so good.
you.
All right. Thanks, Jerry.